They heard screams echoing from an empty church, but when the doors swung open, no one was inside. Have you ever wondered what happens when a place becomes so cursed, even time itself refuses to move forward? It began in 1972 in a small coastal town called St. Anselm's Reach, perched on the edge of the Irish Sea. Known for its storm-battered cliffs and weather-beaten fishermen, the town carried an air of ancient folklore. Locals whispered about drowned sailors, banshees on the wind, and ghostly bells ringing from long sunken ships. Yet nothing could prepare them for the mystery that would unfold inside the old stone church on the hill. For centuries, St. Anselm's Church stood as a beacon. Its spire, crooked from centuries of salt and storms, was the highest point for miles. But by the early 70s, attendance had dwindled. The roof leaked, the pews cracked, and ivy swallowed the walls. Still, Father Mallory insisted on holding evening services for the few loyal parishioners. One stormy night, only 12 people showed up, and by dawn, 3 of them had vanished. At first, police assumed they fled town. The 70s were full of disappearances, people chasing freedom, breaking away from small-town life. But these weren't restless teenagers. They were respected townsfolk, a fisherman, a schoolteacher, and an elderly woman who rarely left her home. Their coats and bags were still inside the church, but they were gone, as if swallowed by the stone walls themselves. But here's the part nobody expected. A young boy, only 10 years old, claimed he saw something strange that night. He told officers that when the storm raged outside, the stained glass windows glowed, not from lightning, but from inside the church itself. He swore he saw shadowy figures moving across the glass, shapes that didn't match the people in the pews. His story was dismissed as imagination. But weeks later, when another man disappeared, this time the church organist, people began to wonder if the boy had told the truth. Investigators searched every corner. They checked the crypt, the attic, the bell tower. Nothing, no sign of forced entry, no tunnels, no hidden doors. Yet every few months someone else would vanish, always inside the church, never outside. Parishioners dwindled until only the bravest dared step through the doors. The strangest detail was discovered by accident. In 1975, a photographer visited to document the crumbling building. When he developed his film, he noticed something chilling. Behind the altar, barely visible in the dim light, was a figure in a long black robe. At first glance, it looked like Father Mallory, but when compared side by side, the figure was taller, thinner, with no visible face. Worse, Father Mallory remembered that moment clearly. He had been standing in the opposite corner. What investigators found next changed everything. The church archives, hidden in a locked cabinet, revealed that St. Anselm's was built on the foundation of something older. Centuries earlier, in 1634, a monastery had stood there. Records spoke of a group of monks accused of heretical practices, summoning voices, holding midnight rites, and performing rituals said to blur the boundary between the living and the dead. The monastery burned down under mysterious circumstances, killing nearly all inside, or so history claimed. But what if their rituals had left something behind? By the late 70s, fear strangled St. Anselm's Reach. The church was boarded up. Father Mallory left the parish, broken by guilt and unanswered questions, but the disappearances didn't stop. Trespassers, teenagers daring each other to spend a night inside, also vanished. Reports surfaced of strange music drifting down the cliffs on windless nights, hymns sung in a language no one recognized. Then came the most chilling account of all. In 1981, 2 police officers were sent to investigate trespassers inside the church. When they entered, they radioed back a single message: "We hear them singing." Moments later, their radios cut out. When backup arrived, the officers were gone. Their patrol car still waited outside, doors unlocked, headlights on. The only trace left behind were 2 hats, neatly placed on the front pew, as if set down with reverence. From then on, No one dared enter. The government sealed the church, warning of structural collapse. But locals knew better. They said the church was not crumbling, it was feeding. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. In 1994, a team of paranormal researchers obtained permission to conduct a controlled investigation. They set up cameras, motion sensors, and tape recorders inside. On the first night, their footage seemed uneventful. Dust, creaks, the occasional flicker of candlelight. But when they reviewed the audio, their blood ran cold. Underneath the silence, layered faintly beneath the hum of the building, were voices. Not one, not two, but dozens, singing, chanting, praying. And in the final seconds of the tape, a man's voice whispered directly into the microphone, "Stay with us." That team never released their full findings. Within weeks, the group disbanded, members refusing to speak publicly. The tapes were said to be locked away, but fragments leaked online decades later, fueling legends of the Choir of the Lost. Today, the ruins of St. Anselm's Church remain fenced off. The spire finally collapsed during a storm in 2003, crushing the nave. Yet visitors still report strange activity. Hikers claim they hear organ music drifting from the cliffs. Some say they see candlelight flickering in the broken windows. And locals insist that on certain nights, if you stand close enough, you can hear the church bells tolling, though the bell was removed years ago. And the disappearances, they never stopped. In 2011, 2 tourists exploring the site were reported missing. Their backpacks were found just inside the broken archway. No footprints led out. So, what really happened inside St. Anselm's Church? Were the monks of the old monastery successful in creating a doorway between worlds? Did the storm-soaked stones of the building hold on to rituals best forgotten? Or is it something far stranger, a phenomenon we still have no words for? The only certainty is this: people walked into that church and never came out, and to this day, no one knows where they went. If you ever find yourself wandering the Irish coast and stumble upon the ruins of a forgotten church, listen closely. If you hear voices singing in the distance, would you dare step inside? Or would you turn away, knowing you might never walk back out again?